Who has the final say on every project? Is it the boss or the client?
This one is deep again. This might be like a political answer. But I think that to a very, very large extent, it is. And I don't make the mistake of not telling people that, right? The same way I acknowledge that I could be sucked into my design and not see things from the way it should be seen. It's the same way you as a marketing person or you as a CEO, a founder, you're too sucked into the business, you're not thinking about the other way around of how people actually experience these designs.
When your boss does not have design education, do you go on to educate them?
So I'd say that if you can, if the person is open, don't go and play with your salary.
Exactly.
Hello everyone, my name is Bolutife and you're listening to Designstration podcast with Ufotubon. Design plus illustration equals Designstration.
This episode is brought to you by UDC. The Untitled Designers Conference is coming up this year from the 23rd of August to the 24th of August, and you don't want to miss it. The Untitled Designers Conference is one that gives designers and creatives in general an opportunity and a forum to come together to learn, share, and network with each other. So, if you're an illustrator, UI designer, brand designer, web developer, whatever creative field you're in, you don't want to miss this year's conference. That's why the Designstration podcast has partnered with UDC to give out 50% discount when any one of our esteemed listeners use our promo code to purchase tickets from their website. So just log down to their website in the link in the description below, and when you want to buy your tickets, the section for promo code, fill in the code UDCX DSP and you get 50% discount when buying your tickets. That's not all. The Designstration podcast will bring in freebies for all our esteemed dearest listeners, and we're going to be handing you freebies on the conference day, so you don't want to miss it. So log on to UDC's website to buy your ticket. The link is in the description below. Hello everyone, you're welcome back to Designstration podcast. My name is Ufot Ubon and I am your host for this very podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the previous episodes we've released over time, and thank you for tuning in again. Today we have brought to you yet another conversation that is centered around OCD. And no, it is not the general OCD that you know. This is specifically related to design, which is what we call Oga-Centred Design in this part of the world. It's a thing that if you've been around the ecosystem of design in Nigeria specifically, you one way or another have experienced it. And I have searched, and truly I have been privileged to find a exceptional, talented, creative, and thought leader designer who can actually handle this conversation. And it's been a pleasure that she has graced us with her presence today to talk about this. It's no other person than the incredible Bolutife. Bolutife, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here and for counting me in on this amazing show. I think I listened to a couple of previous previous episodes, and I said
that's great.
It's rich.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate. Yes. Thank you. So do you mind tell us who is Bolutife? Let's get to know you. What's your background story like?
That story is very long, but I'm going to show it.
Yeah.
So I'm Bolutife Awakan, and I'm a brand designer. Started about 8 years ago. Started as a generalist, found, and then I found my calling. I'd say my calling in branding. Um, I'd say like I just encountered this article online that just blew my mind. The how branding is, and it felt very manipulative. I was like, no be juju be this. Why would you leave a $20 bag that looks exactly same and you go for the $3,000? I mean, it didn't make financial, mental, psychological
Mhm.
sense to me, at that time. And it's like, okay, how were they actually able to do this? Or how are brands built, in essence? And that's how I got myself started to look for the juju that was there. I started to started to find out, truth, and I got to find my own how do I say my rhythm in that stead, and found out, what I actually believe to be true. And since then I've been walking in that path, and I think I'm grateful for finding that path, and I'm really enjoying it. Right. So before then, just do designs. I've been with in different industries. Before I entered tech fully in 2022, I believe. I'd been in entertainment. I'd been in sports. Then I moved, into the fintech space, the marketing tech, just like in general, like that. But I'm here. I'll probably be like
Yeah.
a little longer before I move into another industry, possibly soon.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
great. That's great. Quite the journey you've had.
yeah, like,
Quite the journey you've had. So, speaking of OCD and the whole conglomerate that concerns it, have you ever been in any situation where you really had to design or do work specifically to meet your boss's taste? And this is not just about maybe pleasing the client, pleasing the target audience or so, but specifically to meet your boss's taste. And I want you to tell us how you handled that particular. Uh, how did you handle the whole thing?
this one is deep. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think this happens all the time. I believe,
Mhm.
and okay, maybe until recently, sha, but this used to happen like every time. I think, especially, I mean, I've worked on like two different set of bosses, right? The design
Mhm.
boss, the design centric boss, and then the
Yeah.
non-designer boss. You get,
Mm.
and in all of this, I'd say like they have like the pros and cons, anyways. But in the perspective of the non-designer, yeah, I've had that like several times where they want the design to look certain way, for reasons best
Mhm.
known to them. Sometimes those reasons don't even make sense to me, but
Mhm.
sometimes you just cut your loss and just be like, so what do you want? I'm done with this thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had that. I've had that a lot of times. For the design centric ones, say
Mhm.
most times they are still quite objective in their feedback. Um, say, well, maybe you can do this, do this. It comes off as a suggestion, but the other one will
Yeah.
just tell you, nah, it's not working, it's not
Mhm.
landing. You
Yeah.
can do better, or something like, I don't think this will work, or it's not going to work. They just shut it down like that based on their own
Mhm.
personal feelings. So most of the times, I that's what puts me off the most. Like, you feel like, but does that make that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had that. I've had a couple of times. The second part of the question is how I dealt with it, right? Uh,
Yes. Yes.
so for my own end, there are times that I've tried to put myself in in their shoes. And this I do all the time, not just design. And I learned this. I think I learned it the hard way, but I think it's been working.
Mm.
So it's this thing that
Hmm.
you have to, you know how like product designers throw out like empathy and when you're designing
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah.
I make sure that I'm putting that at the core of the things I do as well, not just
Hmm.
pertaining to the target audience now. With my
Hmm.
boss, with stakeholders, I do this a lot, right? Putting myself out
Yeah.
of my own space, then moving into their space, their head space. What are they thinking? Why would they think like
Hmm.
that? I think that's one thing that has surely helped me. And another thing is I've created an open mind to receive the feedback. It might be Oga-centered, but at times that, I mean, I wouldn't lie, there are times that they were right.
Hmm.
But if I
Yeah.
had been, egotistical and say, because I'm the expert, I know best,
Hmm.
that might have hurt the overall goal that we're trying to achieve, right? So
Yeah.
there were times that were wrong, there were times that were also right. So I mean, I'll just be like, once eventually go in the direction, sometimes we realize that we get more results. Because
Hmm.
I feel like there are times that we also like get sucked into our own perspective, so much so that
Yeah.
we're not seeing things in the way it should be seen. I don't know if that makes sense. So
Exactly. Yeah.
when you get sucked in, you have looked at this design too much, and your self-esteem is don't rise, the bar, that confidence is just like, nah, if this doesn't work, nothing can
Yeah.
work again, right?
Nothing can work
So
again. Yeah.
I've learned to detach most times from that perspective and then just like
Hmm.
empathy. What are they feeling? Why do they feel like this is not going to work? And then I call them out like, just say what exactly you feel and why you think. So another thing I do is making sure I get the why behind the feel or
Hmm.
behind the thought, right? That also helps me put
Yeah.
things to wait, is this feedback going to make sense? Or is it going to like draw me 15 days back? Imagine a project as massive as that, that probably want to ship abroad. There was one time I was working on event branding for exhibition for the company, and like every direction is just being shut down. And then it was until I asked, so we're going to Paris. What do you think that people in France or the French are looking for, or the people that are going to be in that exhibition, what are they looking for? Do they want the design to be all up in their faces, or do they want something like simple? They can easily read what you have, the message, and grab whatever you have to say. So I've had to like have those very tough conversations. I've like, and this
Hmm.
would be like with people as high as C-suite members of
Yeah.
a management level member, not startup now, like very big
Hmm. Yeah.
organizations, right? That have like C-suite
Yeah.
level and all of those things. And you have to like back up whatever you're saying with fact and as well, right? So I've had to have those tough conversations. Why do you think this is not going to work? What do you have, that can back up
Hmm.
that claim? And because we're all looking out for the growth of the company,
Yeah.
so you
Exactly.
cannot
Exactly.
you cannot impose. I cannot impose. I would not say that I should impose, but I mean, I should have some liberty to express myself and find out what really works in this context.
Hmm. Yeah. I really love what you said that when you mentioned that sometimes they might be right, right? Because I have particularly been in a particular project whereby our boss and our boss at the time had nothing related to design. This person wasn't even a designer in any way. But then they brought up a particular suggestion. They were seeing it in a particular way, and we ended up implementing it as part to fulfill our righteousness,
Uh-huh.
not because we felt not because we felt that direction would,
Yeah.
but it ended up turning out nice,
Okay.
right? It ended up turning out nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's true, sometimes they might be right. And I love how you handled it. We have to also ask questions as to why, can
Yeah.
you just shed more light on as to why you wanted to go
Mm-hmm.
towards this direction?
Exactly.
That's great. That's great. Now, who has the final say on every project? Is it the boss or the client?
This one is deep again. But why is all these deep questions are giving me?
Nah, These are Oga-Centred Design, and sometimes questions like this come up, and we're like,
Yeah.
okay, let's find the experts to give us their best answers. Yeah.
Okay. Well, client or boss?
Yeah.
I don't know. This might be like a political answer. But I think that to a very, very large extent, it is very,
Yeah.
very dependent on context. I would not say
Mm.
boss, or I would not say like clients outrightly.
Mm.
But
You have answered like a politician indeed.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
Okay, let me find like good examples to drive this home. Um, okay, so in a situation where there's a project that is
Hmm.
supposed to bring in money, or maybe fundraising, or something that actually
Yeah.
has a direct impact on the company as
Hmm.
well, right? At that
Yeah.
instant, I'd say that the boss would have some leverage, especially
Mm.
if the client does not meet like that criteria of um, the amount of money you want to bring in. For example, you have a KPI.
Okay. Okay.
You have a KPI. Your boss is acting like the manager who is going to make sure and score you and make sure that you meet those goals
Mm.
now that have been set
Yeah.
ahead of time. And part of those that KPI is probably say you or your work would be responsible for bringing like 20 million naira into the company in that.
Okay. Yeah.
And this client is a 500K client,
Okay.
a 200K client, right?
Yeah.
Whose impact will not be directly felt in that
Hmm.
overall goal. At that
Yeah.
point, I think your boss will have, right, is strategizing on how
Hmm.
you can meet that goal for you. Because if you don't meet
Yeah.
it, it's going to also affect his own performance. So at that point,
Hmm.
I'll just say that the boss will be trusted in that point. I would trust my boss. This is what I would do in
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
instance. So, but if the client is going to, be the weighing balance of you achieving your goal
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
that KPI, I'd say that the balance is going to tilt towards the
Mm.
client. But also, overall now, I would say
Yeah.
that in everything that we do, whether or not the client is paying more or paying less. I mean, I also
Hmm.
like make this a mantra for me. Even if I'm doing the work for free, you would not know, right?
Mm.
One of my
Yeah.
best projects in my portfolio, that make music Lagos, I did not receive 5 naira for it. You get,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
the I don't know, the results now, the impact has outweighed
Yeah.
however
Exactly.
value or monetary value I could have placed on that. So I'd say that I approach this from every angle. If I have to do it, I must do it well, irrespective of but if clients they decide that, I mean, you also have to be sure that they're getting fulfillment, because also a 500K client can be a 20 million or 50 million clients tomorrow if you make them
Mm.
happy first, you get. So I approach it from that angle, and I try to be a bit diplomatic too in some stead, in a way that I'm making the client happy, I'm making my boss happy. I know I'm going to suffer for it,
Hmm.
but I still like painstakingly do that. Whether or not we're going the client's way or trying to make there are times that in your own team you're like, oh well, that client just go by yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know myself that this work
Yeah.
too. If I have to put my signature on it, it has to bang, right? So I'm also
Mhm.
trying
Yeah.
a way to
True.
make sure that the client is being fulfilled, getting what they want, while
Mm.
not battering my boss's ego or
Exactly.
his own vision as well. So I just find, I mean, it may not be like I may be just there, just by telling my boss, yes, 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 this is the way we should go.
Mm.
But the way I
Yeah.
approach the clients in that state, that's why I said a bit of diplomacy is also very, very required in managing people, especially if If they are going
Mm.
opposite direction, you are being dragged in both
Direction.
ways,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Clients is best, customers are king, right? So you find a way to
Mm.
actually make that person happy, or even offer them a way, how do I say it now, an incentive after. Say, okay, oh,
Yeah.
this probably did not go the way you wished or you wanted, based off of this. Can I make it up to you out of my own pocket or something? Not giving them money now,
Mm.
but offer
Exactly. I understand.
this for them, just to make sure that they are happy enough to still
Yeah.
come back again next time. So that's how I approach that.
Wow. I love the fact that you gave context around different level. You added context and you answered, you added context and you answered. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
Uh it was I just threw the question out there and just, let's just leave it without context.
yeah,
Well, I love it. It's true. Yes. Yes. It's beautiful.
yeah.
Because sometimes these things can truly be very hard.
Very,
Very, very hard.
very nuanced.
So
So yeah,
very, very nuanced. Yeah. It's time for a quick break. We will be right back after this break. This episode is brought to you by UDC. The Untitled Designers Conference is coming up this year from the 23rd of August to the 24th of August, and you don't want to miss it. The Untitled Designers Conference is one that gives designers and creatives in general an opportunity and a forum to come together to learn, share, and network with each other. So, if you're an illustrator, UI designer, brand designer, web developer, whatever creative field you're in, you don't want to miss this year's conference. That's why the Designstration podcast has partnered with UDC to give out 50% discount when any one of our esteemed listeners use our promo code to purchase tickets from their website. So just log down to their website in the link in the description below, and when you want to buy your tickets, the section for promo code, fill in the code UDCXDSP and you get 50% discount when buying your tickets. That's not all. The Designstration podcast will bring in freebies for all our esteemed, dearest listeners, and we're going to be handing you freebies on the conference day, so you don't want to miss it. So log on to UDC's website to buy your ticket. The link is in the description below. You're welcome back to the conversation. In a case where the boss is not well educated in design,
okay.
and the designer understands, right? That's why they're the designer.
Yeah.
Would you advise that designer educates their boss on design, especially because that's the boss,
Yeah.
and their inputs, their suggestions, it's more or less going against every design principles that there is out there,
Yeah.
right? So, and obviously, in the boss's defense, they don't have that background they don't have the design education.
Mhm.
Would you advise that the designer goes on to educate the boss? Because this thing can keep causing conflict
Yeah.
between the boss and the designer. So what would you advise in such a scenario?
Okay, I'll give you another example.
Okay.
uh, so there's this time we wanted to redesign a website for the company, and
Mhm.
I had to come up with like a mood board, work with product designers and generate assets that will go into all of those things, to just help everybody, like let us find how we can get this thing done and out of our hair, right? So the
Mhm.
what happened at that point was, where I generated like some other like websites that I thought were like bang and doing very well. Presented to my boss, my immediate boss, approved, and then our next boss is
Wow.
totally off design, right? She doesn't have like any design knowledge, right? So I went as far as like looking for a very, very clean website that I think the brand should actually be tending towards, like futuristic tech brand. So I did all of that. People liked it. It was like, wow, massive. This my boss. didn't like it one bit. She's like, "Are they confused on the color to use?" It was a gradient, by the way.
Mm.
So this pastel
Oh.
gradient kind of thing. Are they confused whether to
Mhm.
use blue or purple? I
Mhm.
was like, oh my god, this is it. This is, just to give it off that fine tech, clean vibe.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
she was out of that world. I was like, no way. So we had to go a complete. We now had to go like very, very dark themed, solid colors, just looking like
Mm.
typical. Like this doesn't separate. I mean, this doesn't differentiate us now. So we had those back
Mhm.
and forth, and eventually we gave in because
Mm.
she had
Mhm.
upper hand, right? And
Yeah.
we could not say that. Okay, so if you develop the website like this, it's going to give us the returns. But she could.
Mm.
So so we had to give into that. Right. So
Yeah.
at that instance, right, I know that she was the boss. I've had a lot of people buy into that idea as well. But I know that I also knew that she could be right even more than I was. So I was able to like accept and say, yeah, right, you win, go, do it your way,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
that was that.
Yeah.
So there's this other time too that I think, well, in my own case, Shao, my
Mhm.
biggest challenge with non-design stakeholders has
Yeah.
been this design principle called white space.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that has
Yeah.
been my biggest challenge.
Like
Why
they
is
are
there so
like the
much
white
space
space
there?
is too
Why is
much.
there?
Okay, it's too much.
What?
Okay.
Increase it, increase it. Let it be
Make the logo
so
bigger.
much.
Just let this thing big.
God, never.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that has been
Yeah.
my biggest challenge. But at some
Mm.
point, so I'll use that one as the context now. So at some point, I had to actually, I created a whole presentation.
Okay. Explaining white space. Like let's
Explain,
let's let's dive into this.
right? I was not constructing grid like a mad person. I was just there, like, oh my God, you needed to have seen that presentation. I went to like major people, websites,
Yeah.
publication design.
Yeah.
I did a whole presentation. I did master
Hmm.
class for that stakeholder,
Hmm.
right? Did not say that they got it, oh, but I think that their pressure reduced, right?
It
I think she
reduced. Yeah.
started to see things from a point of maybe it
Hmm.
can be clean. Maybe it will be fine if it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So I,
Yeah.
I made sure that I imprinted that thing on her mind. Not just
Mm-hmm.
telling her about
Yeah.
white space. So I'm just telling her. So if everything is together like this, and then I now came from an angle of telling her the repercussions of those actions,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
I did an experiment. I created a slide. Then I did not put
Okay.
margin. No margin
Okay.
too. Now white space.
Mm-hmm.
I did not put margin. I now put the text big, all of them together, jam packed.
Yeah.
I did that.
Let's show them what bad designs can look
Yeah,
like without white
and I
space.
did
Yeah.
another one, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
with very large margins, like I think I did up to like 18 pixels. You know, just clean, very the same. I think I used almost the same font sizes, right? But I spaced them out,
Yeah.
changed the weight of the font and everything. So now I asked her now, which one of this will she pick? She went for the one with margins. She said, I
Mm-hmm.
can easily
Interesting.
read this. So I now use that
Mm-hmm.
illustration to now tell her this is exactly what I've been doing
Exactly.
without knowing, right?
Mm.
So you've been telling me to do this, do this, do this, and you've not been thinking how will those people see it because you
Mm.
generate and approve the copies or from the content team, or you're already familiar.
Yeah.
You know what to sell, right? So at that point, I think she was also sucked in, and I don't make the mistake of not telling people that, right? The same way
Mm.
I acknowledge that I could be sucked into my design and not see things from the way it should be seen. It's the same way you as a
Mm.
marketing person or you as a CEO, a founder, you're
Yeah.
too sucked into the business. You're not thinking about the other way around of how people actually
Mm.
experience these designs, right? So that was how I handled that situation. I would not say that it completely changed things, but it reduced that pressure. And I think I started to see I started to see some changes, right? If I'd stayed longer there, maybe I would have I'd be able
Yeah.
to like lay my hands on how much impact that did. But I think I did
Mhm.
that. So I'd say that if you can, if the person is
Yeah.
open, don't go and play with your salary.
Exactly. Is exactly. I've actually had I've had an intern who messaged me about this, right? Now the thing is, this person is an intern,
Mhm.
and this person just started their design career, so they are actually on milky ground,
Yeah.
not stony ground, right? So, and as intern and someone who is really passionate about design,
Mhm.
and they're wanting to do everything correctly,
Yeah.
they would want to follow all the design principles, hierarchy, harmony, everything, and all.
Yeah.
So, and it's not working. So it's not working. What do I do? I'm like, this is you are putting me in a box,
Yeah.
because everybody know you started design few months ago. You even had the opportunity to land an intern role, and now you want to be teaching.
It dies.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It has to be like a both way thing. It has to be like harmony.
Yeah,
Maybe you have a good
yeah.
rapport with the boss. You can always do that meeting or
Hmm.
something.
Exactly,
But if you don't,
exactly.
more, it's going
Mm.
to be hard.
You
But you're going to
d-
like continue to try to defend your actions. Every time it comes up,
yeah,
and that can also like be,
yeah.
be very hard to be honest.
Mm.
I'll just say if you
Yeah.
still want to continue there, just my bro,
Hmm.
do what you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what would you advise, right? Now, if you've personally experienced it, please share your story. But what would you advise when a boss doubled as a client, right? Like something outrightly outside the scope of what you're employed to do as a designer. They doubled as a client.
Yeah.
How would you how would you handle such a scenario?
I've had this. My bosses have become
Hmm.
my clients at some point.
Client. Yeah.
I think the first time that happened, first I was under so much pressure because now
Mm.
one person is doubling as the boss,
Yeah.
and the client, and if there's a way that you are kind of like programmed or you have tried to make things work. You have tried to master
Mm.
the way this person manages you or is a boss
Yeah.
over your life. And then this person is adding another uh, um, job
Responsibility.
description. Hey, it
Yeah.
can be tough, right? I was under so much
Hmm.
pressure to make sure that I meet
Hmm.
her needs as the client, right? So I was like,
Hmm.
that put me under so much pressure, and I think I was going to, just mess things up, and design very very rubbish things, right? So, and I think I did design very rubbish things. I know at that point. So then I was not like trying to find a way to now make sure that my reputation did not go down the drain. Then I started to see her as a boss because even my boss too
Hmm.
will still give me feedback, will still help me find,
Yes.
review my work and all of that. So I decided like I was not going to start thinking of this person as two people. I'm going to start thinking of them as one person
One
doing one
person.
job. That is my boss. So I
Hmm.
looked at it from that angle. I was like, okay, yeah. So I'm seeing those feedback, the way I would receive those feedback and implement them and ask questions, right? There are times that even clients, you can't ask them some kind of questions.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, but my
True.
boss, I started to see her as that, and I put out the questions like that. So which one? And I do this thing a lot, right? Sometimes when people are not subjective, they are not objective,
Hmm.
rather, they're being subjective. There's something that
Okay.
I
Okay.
do. I force them to be objective. Something I do.
How'd you do that?
I would write, I would write all the elements I used in that design.
Hmm.
I write it down. Textures, shapes,
Yeah.
fonts, colors, layouts even, right? I
Mm-hmm.
write them
Wow.
out. If there's a way I can, also, and this is when it has gotten to very extreme ends because I mean
Hmm.
you can't do this for every time. You have to. right?
True.
So,
That's
and
true.
this one is when it has gotten to that point where you say, okay, I have my life. What more can I do? And
What
then
kind
I
of
just resolve
yeah.
to that. And sometimes I just, I'm placing the design side by side the elements, and I'm saying, checklist. Is it the color? Is it the green?
Yeah.
What is the green making you feel like? Was it the blue?
Mm,
Or is it the red? Those kind of things.
mm,
Then is it the font? Or is it this texture? Sometimes they don't even understand what texture
mm-hmm.
is. Is it this thing that
Yeah.
looks like grain or noise or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, oh, okay, so maybe can we remove it? Can we try another look? Can we change the color? I don't think this color is actually, but all those elements that you listed out, they probably do not know
Yeah.
everything that you used in that design.
True.
They're just seeing like blending
Yeah.
mode as a background. And a lot of elements have gone into
Mm,
that blending mode before you were able to get that background, right? So
yeah.
I try to do that. So and then I just force them into that space. You will not do open ended for me. And another thing I do for maybe logos is I write out all the attributes that we agreed or the personalities that we agreed that the logo should have.
Okay.
I
Logo
write it
should
out.
have.
I
Yeah.
write it out, and then I'm asking, does this, instead of saying what do you think of this logo, I'm
Yeah.
asking, does this logo feel warm? Does this logo feel modern? So a checklist
Mm,
again. Does this logo feel sophisticated? So whatever we agree that this logo should, at that point they're not thinking, oh, it actually feels sophisticated. Maybe it's not me that is looking at it well.
mm,
So by the time
yeah.
they start to see those things as clear as possible, you're helping them get clarity too. And it's a win-win
Mm-hmm.
situation for you too if you get that
True.
clarity. So
Yeah.
that's something I also like to do sometimes.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Which of these would you prioritize?
Okay.
Would you prioritize incorporating your boss's designs preference or meeting the client's expectations
Hmm.
or ensuring that the design resonates with the target audience? If you have these three
Ah,
bullet points,
and these are
your
like options.
boss's designs preference, yes, or meeting the client expectation, or making sure that the design resonates with the target audience.
I
Yeah, I'm
think
putting you on the
you are
spot. I
doing it again. Let me forgive you. I don't know
Amen.
much, but how will I start this now that I will not sound somehow? I'd say, okay, in the most logical sense that of on
Okay.
this spot that I am now, I will pick the
Yes.
last one. Um,
Wow,
because
the
I
target
have a
audience.
way of making the other two to see.
Okay. Ah.
So
I like the way
yeah.
you did that.
So I
Yeah.
have I have more
Mm-hmm.
control over these people. I don't have control over like target audience
Mm.
and
Target
what they
audience.
actually
Yeah.
do. So I would want to satisfy them, because if they're satisfied,
Mm.
they're going to also favor the client. It's also going to favor the
Mm.
boss. My
Mm.
boss who is going to cash out or get the money that the client's
Exactly.
happy
Yeah.
to. So I'll go for
Mm.
the third one.
That was very smart. Very, very smart. Very smart.
Thank you.
I have a question about when your design
Hmm.
vision conflicts your boss's expectations, right? What the outcome, the end
Yeah.
product, but your design vision are and your boss's expectation are two very different things. How would you find the middle ground? What would you do in that case scenario?
Hmm. Again, why did I agree to do this podcast? Because my brain is working like 1000% with this
Oh
question.
my God.
Okay. Like, very great. Okay. So for me,
Mhm.
if we're like this, it's going to
Yeah.
be obviously a problem for both of us. Maybe more for me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yes, I may lose my job, or I may.
Kai.
But yeah, something I think what I would do is taking cues from other things I've said before as well. One thing I think I'll do is do a table. I love documentation
Okay.
a lot. Sorry, that's
Mm.
that.
So far, I've been hearing you talk about it.
Yeah,
Like,
I do a
yeah.
lot because that helped me. So why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, and I think it's something like bosses also like they love it. So you're this detailed, because I think I shared a tweet some days back, when Far mentioned something on Bolaji's quote on this documentation, and it's something that
Mm.
I actually had to like leave my suggestion on that tweet because I think it's something that also helped me get a lot of clarity. Before I'm able to write down something for somebody to read, I must have enough clarity, be clear enough to actually write something that makes sense or that is easily
Mm.
understandable for other people. So I try to break things down a lot so that is helping everybody. Once I'm clear, other people will be
Yeah.
clearer. So I'll do pros and cons, and this is me approaching this in very objective ways because it's easy for you
Mm-hmm.
to just say, that boss is terrible, they
Mm.
don't see things my way. Is And
Yeah.
honestly, if things continue like that, it can also eat into your mental health and creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Without you being like a very great mental shape, your
Yeah.
creativity is probably going to be zero. So, and that's when you now kneel down. That's your tweet. And lay your hands to heaven and ask God to
Yeah.
come into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
situation, right? For me,
Yeah.
first, pros and cons, right? Write down those things that I think are pros for this vision, this
Mm-hmm.
direction that I have. What are
Yeah.
things that I think are going to work? If I have proof,
Mm.
that would be brilliant, right? Of people that it has worked for before. Write it down, and I'm writing the cons that I'm thinking are probably going to happen. Maybe that one of the reasons why there's usually that bosses and designers are usually at loggerheads sometimes, mostly
Mm-hmm.
budgets. You're thinking of this idea, they're thinking
Mm.
about implementation. How am I going to go
Yeah.
and present this budget to whoever is going to approve it to help us feel this divine vision that you have? It may be
Yeah.
a nice idea, but I mean, at that point, you guys are chasing different things. You want design mastery, and they want business mastery or
Mm.
impact, something like that. So I'm writing down. I'm asking them too, in this thing, the pros and cons of their own this thing, and then we evaluate. It's at that point it becomes logical. It becomes less about how I feel. It becomes logical. You're thinking, I have more cons than you. It only makes sense for me to yield for you,
Yeah.
right? When we start to have this I must win mentality, it messes things
Mm-hmm.
up. And I think this is one of the reasons why I've really thrived in my workplaces, right? I attribute a lot of my success to the fact that I'm not just being a designer, I'm being a partner, I'm being
Mm.
a how do I put it now? Not just an employee that gets salary. I'm being one who
Yeah.
has actually invested in the business as well. So there are times that after I've done all these things, I've won a number of arguments. Right, my boss just
Mm-hmm.
naturally trusts my instincts. It has happened
Mm.
before.
Yeah.
They just trust my instincts. There are times I don't even give any suggestions or this thing. I say, let's do it your way. He say, no, I want to hear what you have to say. Because
Mm.
they know that it's not going to be rasa or this thing of just trying to please myself. It's actually going to
Yeah.
go into help him as well to win his this thing. That's why my boss will
Exactly.
tell me, this thing, no, it's our boss that gave me this work. But I know that you're best
Mm.
suited to do it because I want to see your perspective. I want to hear from you. There are times I've
Yeah.
prepared a lot of documents for my bosses, and they just add their own thoughts, final recommendation and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So at
Yeah.
at the point where you start to feel like you need to merge, right?
Mm.
This is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I went to a business school to learn business as in its core. So that we are not
Mm.
talking over each other's heads. I'm not only creative and trying to, use the best or the go to tools out there or following trends and without actually backing them up. So that's something that I
Exactly.
do, pros and cons. And I know that this is also very, very dependent on the openness of the boss too. I've been lucky to work with
Mm.
like very great people. We may not see eye to eye on work, but they're very, very great, kind people that will
Mm.
eventually find a way, a balanced ground or something that it will not
Yeah.
escalate. But I know that it's not everybody that will get that lucky or be
Yeah.
find bosses like that every time. So I will also say
Yeah.
that um, you should find what's more important to you.
Mm.
Um, uh, in this situation, what is the most important thing here? What should we achieve? And how is this important to me? If it's going to affect you, say if going
Mm.
that way, that direction that your boss prefers is going to, have any adverse effect on you, your personality,
Yeah.
this, I think you should choose yourself, right? To
Mm.
choose yourself. But if it's not going to have any direct impact, yeah, you can always lose the battle to win the war. You get.
Yeah.
So
Mm. I
I'd
like that.
say that's what.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Thank you.
that. Yeah. I like how you handled that. I like how you handled that. This next question should actually probably be the first question I should have
Oh,
asked, but then I'm still going to ask
okay.
it. Do you actually really think Oga-Centred Design is actually a thing, or it's designers bringing that up based on we don't want our egos to be crushed? Or do you really think, or have you really seen from your experience that I have tasted and seen that truly there is an Oga-Centred Design thing?
Well, I'd say there is. It exists. To be honest,
Okay.
it exists.
Mm-hmm. It
We did not
exists.
just make
Okay.
it up. Maybe that name is a little complex
Okay.
now, but it exists.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
when we now think about what is that centered design, it's centered
Mm-hmm.
around yoga. So I mean,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
it
Yeah.
happens. It happens. I would not say
Mm.
that it doesn't. I mean, I've heard people, leaders, design leaders in multinationals say that I just don't feel that that thing would work, and I told them to go and redo it from beginning.
Wow.
I've heard people say that. I've seen people
Hmm.
experience like firsthand, right? It
Mm-hmm.
has happened before. These things get to frustrate us. But I
Yeah.
think that this is another caveat. I think that a lot of people also project
Mm.
in the sense that you've experienced it, you see this is how it should be, or this is how it should
Mm.
be, but it was not done that way. You took offense
Okay.
and then you decided to jump on things, but your boss is not going to
Mm.
succumb to whatever rant
Of
or whatever
course. I
you're doing.
mean, he who owes the money owes the power,
Yeah, so at that point
right?
it
In
goes
this
out of
case.
hand, right? It could just be a
Mm.
little thing that gets expanded,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But it could also be the other extreme that has the boss saying, well, you have done it. 15 days
Mm.
of work. I don't think so. So go and redo it. Another thing I do to curb that kind of this thing for me, I work in I
Mm-hmm.
don't work in kilograms. I work in the SI unit. That's smallest
Okay. Grams, like the smallest
the
unit
smallest
of
unit, right?
anything.
So I'm not
Right.
going 15
You don't
days,
work in
two
hours, you work in
weeks,
seconds. The
3 days,
smallest. Mm.
24 hours, depending on what the project is, without actually bringing him on board. So I had this
Mm.
idea, oh,
Yeah.
this one. Before I thought design at all, I have made sure
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten his buy-in. So I know that I will not get an outright, this is rubbish. What I'll probably get is,
Mm.
let's tweak something. Because it's a what do I put? How do I put it now? Our concept, the concept it was both of our heads that turned it into what
Mm.
it is, right? So I work like that,
Yeah.
bringing them like at intervals. This is how it has gone, though. This is how it is looking, though. It's not like I'll
Mm-hmm.
go and then come back. Then they're
Yeah.
like, no, that's going to mess
Mm.
you up. Trust me. You work
Yeah.
hours,
True.
late nights like that, and you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned
Yeah.
that one too. I used to do like that, but I've learned the hard
Yeah.
way. So I mean,
Yeah. And over the years, we keep getting different new feedback. New feedback. I mean, we've heard different feedback like this work is rubbish.
Mhm.
We've heard different. Well, the recent one I heard recently was this work is not good. Now that one's like I don't understand how this one is not good. But when this thing happens,
Yeah,
it comes. Before we go to the fun
yeah.
part of this podcast, I want you to. I know you've touched on it on right some of the questions you've answered. You've touched on it, but on a more intentional scale, I want you to sort of briefly draft out a pattern that you would give to designers who find themselves in a situation where the design is Oga-centric in this nature. Draft out a pattern that if you follow this step, right, you can easily do this, you can easily do that.
Intentional with it. Intentional and invest in the relationship. I do not say my bosses as boss every time.
Yeah.
Um, or they may be holding that capacity,
Mm-hmm.
but I see them as much more. I see them as
Okay.
mentors. I see them as
Mm.
inspiration. I see them as, a lot of different things. And that's because I've brought my mind. So every time I'm thinking about this, my boss is not a wicked boss, he's a mentor. And the mentors are allowed to tell you when you're going off track, right? So it eases things up in my mind. I'm not looking to be aggressive all the time. Right? So just the same way you know that your mom loves you, right? But you don't see eye to
Mm-hmm.
eye every time. You can't possibly see eye to eye with everything every blessed
Mm-hmm.
time. So I
Yeah.
have learned like that, and so I would say that
Mm.
you should invest in that relationship. Um, Find maybe something that they like outside of work. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can invest in relationship with your boss. It doesn't have to like be money. It just once in a while. No matter how hard, tough that person is, they are still human. There's still one part
Mm-hmm.
of to
Yeah.
them that is human, and no matter how they attack you, at the end of the day, we're all humans,
Mm.
and we all like to be loved,
True.
that kind of
True.
thing, right? So I'd say that invest in relationship, and then for every time that to um you have to evaluate, where to go, or if you want to go your way or follow the Oga-Centred Design, right? I also like, next thing would be to actually know, evaluate and understand what truly matters in this case. Please my boss or to fulfill my own need, and then you do that as objectively as you
Mm-hmm.
can. Is fulfilling your own need just to feel your own ego or say that I won over my boss? The intention really matter in whatever fight you're fighting, right? So you have to also like find a very good balance for that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
then after like making sure that you are doing this for the right reasons, you are fighting that your vision or your direction
Mm.
should be the one to go for the right reasons,
Yeah.
then you should also like learn a lot about communicating it. Is
Mm-hmm.
one part that
Yeah.
I see people, there's a lot of like fumbling
Mm-hmm.
in the design space. I mean, truthfully, I see people talk and sometimes it's disheartening. You cannot even express or say why you feel like this should. And in that way, it's just like in a court, right? There are two lawyers arguing different points.
Mm.
It is it doesn't matter whatever happened. It is who is able to make a case without reasonable doubt that is going to win,
Mm.
right? No matter what happens. In fact, let them be committing the murder there. If the lawyer is able to prove that it did not happen with reasonable doubt, is going to win, right? So that's how I also like look at
Yeah.
these things. You're able to communicate your own words, defend your actions
True.
without reasonable doubt, right? So that whoever is telling you no, at least you know that you have done your part, you have done your best, and whatever happens is not going to be on you, right?
Yeah.
So communication is also very important.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to express your ideas in very simple terms, right? Don't, like I said when I was presenting about white space to my boss, I didn't have to continue to say white space. I just had to like show it in a way that she could understand, or what I know that she could easily like grasp and understand and then make use of, right? So that's how I think about communicating design. Bring it to their own context, their life. If they're marketing people, use marketing terms. If
Yeah.
you are very vast in those areas as well, use those terms. Of if they are parents, Use parenting right as examples. So if your child is here and your child is here, and then
Yeah.
they, those things they can easily relate with. So communicate
Yeah.
it in ways that it's easily understood, and then it is also factual. You
Yeah.
have facts to back it up. If people have done it before, they've gotten results. Look for research to find a way to back up your claims, right? Not just on feelings too. If you always have to, argue your designs based on feelings, you probably are doing something wrong. If it's just because you feel it or because you feel that you are the expert and you know best, right? You're probably doing something wrong, right? So if except for cases where nobody has done this before, it's a stellar idea you're presenting to the company and all of that. But if there are like things that you think people have done before, research it. If you have people in other companies, ask them how they're doing it, things like that, to help you back up your claims as well. Nobody is illogical or unreasonable or mad. After backing up the facts, think, and then hold on to God. Hold
Yeah.
God diligently. Like this life is not easy, and creativity is very, very subjective too. So I mean, all of these things I've been trying to explain. There are times that it will not just go. No matter what you try, it will not just go. It's God that can help you. Just be crying to God for mercy.
Yeah. True. This is I love the pattern. I love how you've aligned everything. I love the whole step by step. And I'm definitely sure if and when designers implement this, this will be very helpful.
Yeah.
This will be very helpful. Okay, so we're getting to the fun part, the cool fun part. And this is a this or that section, getting to know the incredible Bolutife. So, Android or iOS? Or
iOS. iOS.
iPhone. Windows or MacBook?
MacBook.
MacBook. Wow. So you're one of them. Okay, that's good. Behance or Dribble?
Behance.
Behance. Okay. I should have said Behance or Pinterest, but then that's fine. Now, Netflix or Prime?
Netflix.
Okay. Hard copy or soft copy for books?
Hard copy.
Okay. Dropbox or Google Drive?
Google Drive.
Okay. Why did you think about it?
But I know I could do a lot more with Dropbox, but Google Drive is just very easy, simple, and like that.
It's good. Instagram or YouTube?
YouTube.
Okay. Okay. Let's get to the food part. Shawarma or suya?
Shawarma.
Okay. Soda or fruit juice?
Fruit juice.
Okay. Amala or pounded yam?
Amala.
Wait.
Correct one.
So you actually consider amala to be swallowed?
Yeah, I do. Why not?
Man, it's too weak.
I had one yesterday and I kept saying, what is this? No density.
Too weak. No, there's no density. Okay. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Okay. Dodo or boli?
Dodo.
That
was very hard for me to pick because I love plantain in all the shades.
Okay. I got two more.
Okay.
Spotify or iTunes?
iTunes.
Okay. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an introvert.
Wow. You're very, very, very free, very out there.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
I walked through
look like that.
But I never stopped being one.
Wow, it didn't look like that. Just very.
Yeah, I found I think I found my good spots and then double down on it.
That's great.
I probably will not be this outspoken in other things, but most times I enjoy. I just try to go to another place. I just be there, just very very shy, and I'm still very shy. To be honest, a lot of people don't believe me. I'm still very shy.
I remember when I met Bolutife in person last year at Design Matters Design event. She was just exceptional. Her presentation, her session was out of it was out of this world. It was beautiful. And Bolutife is an amazing designer herself. She's an amazing designer. She has inspired many. I have seen your design and it's remarkable. And I want to use this opportunity to say a very big thank you for coming on the podcast today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode on the Designstration podcast with Ufot Ubon. If you enjoyed this episode, kindly leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. You can also suggest a topic or ask a question by filling out the form in the description below. We also appreciate when you share this podcast with friends and other creatives, even as you make plans to join us again next time, as we bring you more insightful conversations like this. Design plus illustration equals Designstration.